Before we look at day 6 material, what we want to do is to look at day5.py, which is my solution to the day 5 exercise. I first import random, which is a module that allows us to create some random numbers in Python. We first then give the computer an action, right? So we have computer, which is a variable that stores what the computer is going to do. And this is a random choice between rock, paper, or scissors. Then, while true, we capture the input of the player rock, paper, or scissors into the variable player. We then say what the computer is doing. And if the player is playing rock, then we need to see who wins against rock, who loses against rock, and who ties against rock. We can repeat this decision tree downwards to if the player played paper, and also if the player played scissors. And again, much like what we've done in day4.py, if the user provided an invalid input, we need to print out something of the effect of that's not a valid play, please check your spelling. At the end of every turn, the computer makes a new random choice of what he is going to play, and he then goes back using the while loop to capture the player's choice. Working with Python modules and packages. In this section, we're going to take a look at number 1, what are Python modules? Number 2, using third-party Python modules. Number 3, compiling Python files. Number 4, using Python packages. In this first video, we're going to introduce the concept of a Python module. In this video, we're going to take a look at 3 things. Number 1, what are modules? Number 2, why use modules? And number 3, creating modules. Let's dive in and take a look. Firstly, what are modules? So let's think back around the functions we've seen so far. So we've defined some of our own functions, like my function, and we also have seen some standard functions inside Python, like print. So recall that if we started IPython for the first time, it's fairly trivial for us to start calling functions like length of a list and also printing of strings. And that's because length and print are built-in functions in Python, and you can think of that as one big module that Python gives you by default, right? But then obviously everybody runs into similar problems in Python when they're doing Python programming, or when they're creating a web server with Python, or maybe when they're creating an application with Python. So it doesn't really make sense for yourself or other people to rewrite code or reinvent the wheel where the wheel has been used many times before. So Python has this concept of a module. So modules are packaged codes that gives you an access to a bunch of functions. In addition, because you're importing a module, the module is imported under something called a namespace, which allows all the functions within that module to belong to a certain namespace. Let's demonstrate this concretely by giving you an example. So suppose we want to interact with the operating system underneath whatever we're running Python with, right? That should be a fairly simple operation that is a problem everybody gets involved with, and it doesn't make sense for us to write our own functions just because the standard library doesn't contain this. Fortunately, Python has this module OS built in, and we can do import this module by typing import OS. So now OS is available to us, and you can see that if we type OS, it's a module. The module's name is OS, and it's from my WinPython folder. So as you know, we installed WinPython earlier, and because everything within Python under the WinPython installation is under the WinPython directory, we can see that the module OS is also within our WinPython directory. So what does OS give us? So OS gives us things like path. where it's another module underneath OS, and you can use it to join two paths under the current OS root. So there's a function called path.join, where you can say C users like this. So normally we won't have access to a function that joins two fragments of a file path together, but because we've imported OS, and OS provides us functions that are very convenient and common to people dealing with the operating system, we then get access to functions that could help us a lot just by calling join function within the OS path module. So this is also a great segue into what's a namespace. When we've imported OS, we've imported all the functions under OS and all the submodules under OS under the OS namespace. Therefore, all the modules and functions under OS has been called from OS dot something something. Here we're calling os.path, which is the submodule in the OS namespace, and we dot it again to call the join function within the path module, which then join is under the namespace os.path. The reason why we have namespaces is to group like functions together, and also provides a way to separate functions that may have the same name on two different packages. So we know that os.join is separate from os.path.join. And that's all there is to it. So we have just learned about what are modules and why we use modules and how we can create modules within our Python environments by importing them using import space os, or import space os.path, or import numpy. Whatever package you're importing, you can use import space, the name of the package, and create a namespace for that module. Under that namespace, you can then access all the functions and submodules within the package. In the next video, I'm going to show you very quickly how we can use third-party Python modules. I'll see you guys next time.